Hello, YouTubers. This is Chris Pepelinski. I figured since it's the start of the summer season, regarding the movies, and I figured, when mentioning about that, I figured I wanted to talk about my review about the Captain America: The Civil War movie, which I will admit was a very well done, put together movie. So, in a basic recap, pretty much after the events of the Avengers: Age of Ultron. There's this accord called the Slovakia Accords, which, if people read the comics, is, some kind of regulation that keeps the Avengers, in check after all the incidents, that happened between them, which divides Tony and Steve Rogers. Tony, supports the Slovakia Accords, feeling that the Avengers need to be regulated, which is partially to do, with his recent breakup with Pepper Potts, and also the incident that happened with the Ultron artificial intelligence, and the opposing faction is Steve Rogers, who feels that the Slovakia Accords is just another way for government regulation, control and fear, which kind of ties back a bit with the previous movie, The Winter Soldier, in which the hovercrafts were used automatically, and he was saying it was just another way of fear and things like that. I would say what I liked about the movie, it had like a lot of funny banter between the characters, but also like there wasn't like really like a villain of particular sort, since it was kind of like the heroes were doing what they thought was right, even if they were like not quite sure about it themselves. Uh, I will say that this movie reintroduces Peter Parker, but this time for the first time in the Marvel universe, played by up and coming actor, Tom Holland, who's supposed to get his own, yet again another Spider-Man movie coming out next year. And I would definitely say the way it ends, I guess somehow it'll probably tie into the Avengers, Infinity storyline, and probably shape the way the Marvel movies are. And I would say, for those that are a big fan of the Marvel movies, who, if they like Tony Stark or Steve Rogers, it's definitely something, worth checking out, since it definitely lives up to its hype. And anybody who's, I guess, seen the movie, they can leave their own comments on my channel, we could, and, start a discussion.